What's up, family? How you feeling today? It's your boy, Kid from Brooklyn. I'm broadcasting as usual from an undisclosed location just outside Atlanta. Um, I'm feeling pretty good. I know it's been a little while since I did one of these, but I've been dealing with allergies. Allergies are crazy. If you live in Atlanta, you are going to be affected by allergies some kind of way. That's a little ridiculous, but I'm back. I'm happy to be back. It's nothing like good health. I'm feeling good. I'm glad to be here with you guys. Talk about today's topic. Today's topic is loneliness in Japan, and this is something that I don't really hear a lot of people talking about. I don't think I've ever seen a video where people talked about how lonely it can be in Japan. So we're going to get into that. But before that, I want you guys to please like, subscribe. Is there another one? Like, subscribe, share the video. But most importantly to me is that you watch and listen. If you have questions, if something I say is confusing or you don't understand, leave me a question in the comments. Leave a comment if you like what I have to say, if you don't like, if you agree, if you disagree, whatever. Leave a comment. This is all about communication. It's not just a solo thing. It's not just me, giving you some stuff. I want you guys to give me some feedback, questions, anything at all about what you feel about what I'm talking about today. But like I said, before we jump into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself in case you don't know. My name is Trevor David Houchen. I am the author of this book. This book is called The Eternal Outsider, 10 Years Black in Japan, a Jaded Memoir by Trevor David Houchen, which is me. I lived in Nagoya, Japan for 10 years, and I moved back to America 2003, and I wrote a book. It took me about 4 years to write my book, and published it. And this is my book, The Eternal Outsider, 10 Years Black in Japan. You can get it on Amazon. It's a real book, it's real. So that's one of the things that I guess qualifies me to be able to do this. I lived there, obviously, for 10 years, so I had to have 10 years worth of experience to write a book about it, and I do. So check out my book, The Eternal Outsider, 10 Years Black in Japan. Here's the poster of it right here. You can get it on Amazon. Also, while I was in Japan, I published a magazine, and these are a couple covers, couple copies of my magazine that I published in Nagoya. This is one. This is taken at Osukanen in Nagoya. And this is another one. This was our second issue. This was our first issue, Nagoya Grows Up. And then, I think this was our third issue, actually. That's me. That's Adrian. That must be Adam. That's Jason. We were the basic staff of Ren. Also want to shout out, of course, Akim Runenbaum. He was our photographer at large. And we had a bunch of writers also. Shout out everybody in Nagoya. Shout out Nagoya 052 052. Shout out Nagoya. So that's a little bit about me. So let's talk about loneliness in Japan, which is something, like I said, that not a lot of people talk about in their blogs about Japan. And I find that a little bit wild because Japan can be an extremely lonely place to be, especially if you're there for a long time. And the loneliness in Japan, it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. It doesn't, from my experience there for 10 years was that it doesn't ever peak and then stop. You go through periods in Japan where you feel like you have a wide social network. Maybe you've learned the language a little bit. Maybe you're in a relationship. You've got coworkers, you've got friends. So you don't feel lonely, but then suddenly it can come back to you that you are in Japan on this tiny island, tiny archipelago of islands way out in the Pacific, totally removed from everything that you're used to. And once again, I also want to make this clear. I'm an American. I'm a Jamaican American, but I'm an American by nationality. And my perspectives are as an American. That's the place that I'm speaking from. So, loneliness in Japan. Now, first of all, obviously, they speak Japanese, okay? But I think the degree to which Japanese is spoken in Japan and English is not, unless you are in a major metropolitan center like Tokyo, Yokohama, I guess, Osaka, I guess. But outside the major metropolitan areas in Japan, it's Japanese almost 100%. And I think this is something people, especially American people, are not prepared for. Nobody really tells you that they don't speak English. You just assume as an American that everywhere you go, somebody speaks English. And like I said, if you go to Tokyo or one of these big cities in Japan, where they do speak English and they're used to English, they might not speak it, but they might be used to it. That's very different. If you go outside these metropolitan areas, chances are everywhere you go, no one speaks English. This is something that is immediately shocking, I think, especially, like I said, for Americans when they go abroad, but especially when they go to a country like Japan. When you can't speak the language and literally no one understands what you're saying. Can I have another one, please? Another one. No, one more. Thank you. When you have to go through that all day, every day, everywhere, it can be somewhat traumatizing, to be honest with you. You can't communicate. You can't make yourself understood. You can't make people understand what it is you want, what you don't want, where you want to go. You can't convey your thoughts. And that is immediately isolating. It's like the whole world goes, and that's you right there realizing none of y'all know what I'm saying. Like none of y'all. Hold up. No, hold up, man. Hold up. They playing. Hey, none of y'all understand what I'm saying? None of y'all? That moment can really be shocking, traumatizing, and somewhat terrifying. The language barrier situation. So, and I think that is one of the first shocks of culture shock that anyone experiences when they go to Japan, especially, like I said, outside of the major cities, is the language. If you are not somewhat mentally prepared to not be understood and also not understand, it can be very shocking. And that language situation can really turn you off to a degree where your life in Japan begins as a frustrating experience. And frustration is an emotion that you experience during culture shock and, when you first get to another country. And that frustration can lead to even more loneliness. So if I were to advise anyone moving to Japan or any foreign country, but in particular Japan, the best piece of advice I would say is learn some of the language so you don't go through that immediate, that initial earthquake, psychic, nobody here understands what I'm saying, feeling, because it can be really shocking. So language. I got some notes and what have you. The loneliness in Japan can be a very quiet country, especially if you can't understand anybody. You could be in a club or a bar or a supermarket or wherever, a train station, and hear a million voices. But if all those voices are speaking a language that you can't understand, even though you're surrounded by X amount of people, however many people, you're going to feel lonely. There's a loneliness that goes with not understanding anything anyone is saying. Once that language thing takes hold, if you haven't learned the language, what you wind up with is hearing your own voice in your head a lot louder and a lot clearer. This was, for me anyway, this was one of the benefits of living in Japan for me that I really loved eventually after I got over it was, since you can't understand other people, you turn to a familiar voice, and that familiar voice really often is your own voice. But you can't go around walking on the streets talking to yourself while you're walking down the street. I'm really hungry. Wow, it's really beautiful today. I think I should give myself something to eat. Did I call my mother yesterday? Why am I wearing these socks? Whoa, I am really, really cold. I didn't know it got so cold here in Japan. What is going on? Why are you looking over there? You can't really talk out loud while you're walking around by yourself. So your internal voice becomes a lot louder. And for some people, this is a good thing because their internal voice helps them and, I don't know, maybe soothes them or consoles them, makes them think everything is all right. Or maybe your internal voice is the kind of internal voice that is always telling you that there are things to worry about. There are things that you should be afraid of, asking you what the hell you are doing here. If that's your internal voice, you're going to hear that voice a lot louder. And do you want to? Do you want to hear your own internal voice a lot louder? Because living in Japan, you are going to hear your own internal voice a lot louder at some point. Of course, all these videos are made for people who are living in Japan or planning to live in Japan for a longer amount of time. For me, that's a year or longer. But you're going to hear your own voice in your head. You're also going to notice just yourself a lot more. You're going to notice your own habits. You're going to notice your own needs because there's going to be a lot of stuff that is not there that you are used to being there. You're used to being able to get in your car, drive a block, 2 blocks, whatever, go to the supermarket, get whatever you want, go to the restaurants you like and the places you like and blah, blah, blah. But that stuff is, by and large, not going to be in Japan. It's not going to be there. It's a different world. It's a different planet. That's why I call it Planet Japan. It's a different planet. And whatever you're used to on your planet New York, planet LA, planet wherever you're from, planet Florida, planet whatever, Michigan, wherever you're at, planet Japan is a completely different place. So it's going to force you to notice yourself, because if you want this, and this, and they don't have it, you're going to have to realize, oh my God, maybe I'm addicted to this stuff. And there are going to be addictions, maybe not really biological addictions, but there are going to be addictions and habits and preferences and traditions and customs and routines that will be non-existent in Japan. And all of that shatters your sense of security as to who you are, where you are, what you are doing, and how you get around in the environment. All those things are going to change drastically overnight in Japan, and it's going to be a shock to your system. So you're going to recognize a lot more about yourself and what you're used to, what you think is normal, what's good for you. You're going to notice these things in their absence, and that also increases loneliness. These are the things that you turn to ignore loneliness often. These are the things that, when you feel lonely or a little anxious or whatever, you go get your favorite hamburger, go get your favorite cereal, go to your favorite nightclub, whatever the case may be. We all have these different things that we do to avoid feeling negative emotions. And one of these negative emotions is loneliness. I personally don't feel loneliness to be a negative emotion. Like, I like being alone. I'm a loner. People, if you knew about me personally, you would say Trevor's a loner for sure. I like doing things by myself. I travel to Japan by myself. I like traveling by myself. I like being put in uncomfortable situations, kind of as a result of having lived in Japan and being so uncomfortable and seeing how it helped me grow. I now like being in uncomfortable situations, but by no means does everyone like being in uncomfortable situations. Not everybody. It's not for everybody. Some people like being comfortable because, if they get into an uncomfortable situation, it messes up their routine too much, awakens demons in their mind, makes them fearful, anxious, what have you. Japan will give you all those emotions if you're there for a long amount of time. And like I said, or for an extended amount of time. And like I said, my videos are for people either planning to live in Japan or already living in Japan, or planning to go to any country and just have a different experience than what they're used to in their own country. Some of the things are similar. Culture shock, you're going to experience culture shock anywhere you go. But my particular niche is Japan. So I'm talking about how lonely it can be in Japan. I think I said your personal demons will be magnified. You will hear the voices in your head magnified 100 times. There will be nights where you will be in your apartment or wherever you're living, and you will have had a day or several days or several weeks of not hearing your language anywhere at all, unless, of course, you get on your phone. You can obviously YouTube videos or whatever, call friends overseas. But if you immerse yourself into the immediate environment, there will be days, sometimes weeks, depending on where you are, where you will not hear your own language, and you will be in your apartment one night, and it will play tricks with your mind. You will start to wonder, what am I doing here? Where am I again? Where am I? Is it Japan? What am I doing here? I had many, many, many nights like that. And it can be worse. It can get worse. Anxiety is no joke, and you will have bouts of anxiety in Japan. I would like to go as far as to say anyone who lives in Japan for a longer amount of time is going to experience some form of anxiety. Some people, it might be acute. I had acute anxiety. I had a full-out panic attack. 3 months in, I hadn't heard much English. I had not heard much English in Nagoya. I was living very close to Central Park, Higashiku. I was living in Higashiku, and kind of doing all my little business right there in Sakai around Higashiku over to down to Hisayo Odori, over to like I want to say Oasis 21, that area, Chunichi, and I did not at that time Nagoya didn't have that many foreigners. And I was, like I said, doing all my stuff between Higashiku and that area, those areas that I just said. And I didn't see a lot of foreigners. And I did not hear a lot of English. And slowly but surely, it began to dawn on me, whoa, bro, you're going to be here for a year. It's been 2-3 months. You're not really speaking much English. You're not having any just casual small talk conversations with anyone, anywhere. Whoa, this is a little bit crazy. And I can remember one morning, it all dawned on me, it like crashed on me that I was going to be there for that long. And I just needed to talk to somebody. I needed to have a full-on normal conversation. And I went over to Sakai and I just sat there for a while and I told myself, the first foreigner I see, I'm going to run up to them and just start talking to them. And that's exactly what I did. And it was this Brazilian girl. She couldn't speak English either. She was kind of fine, though, and that was cool. But, I ran to her, and she's looking at me, looking at this black guy running towards her, and I'm running, hey. And, I stopped, and I was like, do you speak English? And she was like, no, and I was like, a little bit. And she was like, no, I speak Portuguese, And we tried to have a conversation. I told her, I'm from America. I'm from New York. I just moved here 2 or 3 months ago. And she kind of understood a little bit. At least she was cool with the social exchange because she's also a Westerner. So she was okay with this stranger talking to her. But Japanese are not cool with that. Japanese will make sure you understand. Sumimasen. Hi. Japanese will make sure you understand that they don't really want you all up on them, talking to them and trying to be friendly and trying to, get in their world or get them into your world or whatever. Japanese are not really with that. So that also contributes to the loneliness, is the social playing field, the social milieu, as it were. Japanese are not open, friendly people. So you've got the language barrier. Then you've got the fact that their personalities are not given to them just striking up conversations and being like, hey, how you doing? Where are you from? Where do you live? Where do you work? What do your parents do? Are you still married? Do you have kids? What's your savings account like? Are you divorced? Do you want to get divorced? They're not really down with all that stuff. They don't have them long, drawn out, almost, in my opinion, too friendly conversations like we are used to here in America. In fact, they do the opposite. They don't talk to strangers in Japan. Japanese don't talk to strangers. There's no such thing as just like going up to a stranger and striking up a conversation and having something in common and then becoming friends, sharing phone numbers or social media. That doesn't happen in Japan, generally speaking. So that is another isolating thing. The whole way that Japanese get down socially, they're not open, friendly, talkative, warm people, which isolates you further. So you've got the language, you've got the social setting, how Japanese people are not open to, really being too friendly. And these two things together isolate you. Isolation is, for me, a recurring theme that I experienced while I was in Japan and while I was writing my book and talking about my experience. It was the isolation of being there. And, if you let your mind wander, the physical geography of where you are is so isolating. You're literally at the edge of the earth, kind of at the edge of the earth. And physically, that can play tricks with your mind. How the realization of how far from home you really are, how you can't call your boys and meet them down the block. You can't get in your car and drive 5 or 6 hours, whatever it may take, to go visit your relatives, your mother, your father, your sister, your brothers. You can't get in your car, go visit them. You can't call anybody and just have people come over. You can't, you know what I mean? All those things that you get used to from living in your own country are gone, and you are literally on the edge of the earth. So that can be psychologically, that can mess with your mind. Like, where am I again? What if I need somebody to come rescue me? You know, you are really far away when you are in Japan. You're far, far away. So yeah, the loneliness in Japan can be piercing. It isn't just like this dull, kind of clumsy, selfish, I'm alone, nobody likes me, kind of Western feeling of loneliness that we allow ourselves to indulge in. You know, that's one of the things that I think about loneliness in general, is that we allow ourselves to indulge in loneliness from time to time, to feel sorry for ourselves, to, you know, elicit some kind of response from our friends. We call them to tell them we're lonely, and we allow ourselves that loneliness indulgence a lot here in America. But in Japan, you have no choice. The loneliness is going to be a part of your life, whether or not you want to indulge in it. You're going to be lonely. And for some people, that loneliness is going to be piercing. If you are a person that's used to a lot of, I don't know, vigorous, familiar, warm, happy, uplifting, social stuff. You like to go to a lot of parties. You like to invite people to your house. You like to go to people's houses a lot. You like to meet strangers on the street. You're the kind of person that talks to everybody. Everybody talks to you. You're real. If that's you, Japan is, you're not going to get that in Japan anywhere ever for your entire experience there. No matter how long you're there, you're not going to get those things in abundance the way you get them here in America. You might get those things in isolated bits and pieces, but you will not get them in the abundance that you get them here in America. So if you're used to that and you need that, you might want to really, really think about staying in Japan for a long time. And if you still are bound and determined to go to Japan and stay there for a long time, learn the language. This will help you tremendously. Learn the language, even the smallest bits of the language. So what else? Is there anything else I wanted to talk about as far as loneliness in Japan? You know, I wanted to keep this video short. My videos have been a little bit longer than I've wanted them to be, so I wanted to keep this one shorter. Shout out my man Ed in Nagoya. I didn't want to forget you, Ed. Shout out Ed. He's one of the ones that asked me to do this, to talk about the loneliness there. I think Ed has been in Japan maybe all his life, most of his life. He's of Brazilian heritage, and Ed experiences loneliness. He speaks the language fluently. He works. He's got a corporate job. Shout out Yuki also, if you're still with Yuki, Ed. I don't know, but shout out Ed and Yuki. Shout out everybody in Nagoya. Like I said, 052 represent. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the loneliness aspect of living in Japan. It can really, really mess with your mind. Um, learning the language is a huge plus to get you over some of that loneliness that you're going to experience. Um, Real quick to wrap it up, some of the emotions that you're going to experience when you are going through culture shock. And for me, the entire experience, I was in Japan 10 years, was a 10-year long culture shock experience for me. Culture shock never goes away to me. I don't really understand. Like, there are supposed to be stages of culture shock, the honeymoon stage where you love everything. Everything is just fantastic. You're in love. Everything is cool and interesting and wonderful and just amazing and just, oh, wow, it's just great. And then after the honeymoon phase, according to psychologists, the next stage of culture shock is hostility and irritability. And I don't think that comes immediately after the honeymoon phase. I don't think the hostility and irritability phase comes immediately after the honeymoon phase. I think after the honeymoon phase, there's a sort of, it's 50-50. 50% of you is like, whoa, this is cool. This is cool. This is interesting. I want to learn this stuff. Wow, this is really interesting. And then there's another 50% of you that's like, whoa, why do they do things like that? Why don't they do things the way that I do it? This is a little difficult. I'm going to have to really buckle down and, wow, they do it like that? For real? Whoa, that seems dumb. But okay, it's a mixture of honeymoon and just, sort of like realizing, this is not like where I'm from. And then after that phase, I believe maybe then comes the hostility, irritability stage, because it's such an agglomeration of culture shocks: the language, the food, the transportation, working, friendships, the season, the weather, the pace. There are so many things to adjust to that at some point it prickles up your back. You get to where, like, come on now, y'all got to be able to do something normal. Y'all not going to do nothing normal. Like, y'all going to do everything different. Y'all are going to do everything different. Y'all going to do everything different for real. Then maybe hostility, irritability. And this obviously differs from person to person, the hostility, irritability aspect of it. Some people, like I said, in another one of my videos, I described the different types of foreigners who live in Japan. I was talking about men, and one of those types is the nutcase psychopath. I know several nutcase psychopaths who are currently living in Japan who never got out of the hostility, irritability stage and stayed in the hostility, irritability stage for however long they live in Japan. They never got over the idea that this is not my country, this is not my language, these are not my people. I have to get used to doing things their way. These people stayed in why do they do it like that? That's stupid. Are you serious? Why are you guys, you can't speak English? I know people who stay in that hostility, irritability phase their entire time in Japan. They're stuck there. And imagine 5, 10, 15, 20 years of hostility and irritability. Wait a minute, Trev. That sounds like America. Imagine what that'll do to your bodily functions, your blood pressure, your endocrine glands, your digestion system, your nervous system. It can really mess you up. So if you're able to be consciously aware that you are becoming hostile and irritable, it would behoove you to do something about that before that becomes your core personality. But you're going to go through a stage of, why do they do things different? Why don't they understand me? And that makes you hostile and irritable. The next stage that psychologists say is the gradual adjustment. And I agree with this one. I would say I got into the gradual adjustment stage around my third year in Japan. Third year, I was just about to get married. In my third year, I got married 4 years in, right? No, I got married in my third year in Japan. And, symbolically and figuratively and literally, I married the culture. I married a Japanese woman, and I decided to marry a Japanese woman. And at the same time, I decided to marry the culture as best I could, marry myself into the culture as best I could, about my third year in. So that's when I started to make the gradual adjustment to the best of my ability. Psychologists say after gradual adjustment is adaptation. This was the most difficult stage for me for many reasons. One, because I was married for 3 years, 2006 to 2009. And like I said, around 2006, I decided to marry into the culture and, try to acclimate myself as best I could. And I did that by marrying my wife, marrying into the culture. And then for those 3 years we were married, trying to fit in as best I could as a husband, as a partner, as a productive member of this, not only my relationship with my wife, my relationship with her family, my in-laws, my relationship with the society itself. I tried for about 3 years to do it. We got divorced in 2009. Obviously, I failed in the marriage aspect. And after 2009, and after my divorce, it felt like everything I had worked for those 6 years previous to that just kind of exploded in my face, because I had worked hard to fit into my wife's life, her family's life, the culture. And since I wasn't able to do that and I was divorced, that divorce pushed me back out of the little social network that I had formed, and I was alone again. So like I said in the beginning of my video, loneliness goes up and down. So, my loneliness was going down for those 3 years I was married to my wife and dealing with her, her family and being a part of her family. And we had our family, our 2 children. My loneliness was going down because I was developing my own family, my own literal blood family. Then we got divorced. I was thrown out of that safety network of loved ones, and then my loneliness went back up again. So like I said, it goes up and it goes down. And then I found myself after 2009 having to try to readapt, find another niche in the society. And that was another culture shock. It was like a brand new, how can I say, I had a brand new label. I was now a divorced foreign man in Japan. So I had to reacclimate myself back into Japanese society as this new label. And it was almost literally like I had just gotten to Japan, like I hadn't been there for 6 years, like I had just gotten there, and I had to start all over again. So Yeah, yeah, I had to readapt. So anyway, fourth level, fourth stage of culture shock, adaptation. Um, Adaptation, acclimation. But like I said, for me, the entire 10 years that I lived in Japan was culture shock. There were poignant, really acute moments of culture shock. Um, but the entire experience, there was low grade culture shock going on for the entire experience, which I love. I love culture shock as long as I don't like wind up in jail or something like that for doing something which is very easy to do. In Singapore, do not spit on the street. You will go to jail. Um, China, on the other hand, you can spit anywhere you want. You will never go to jail for spitting in China. Why did I say that? I don't know. But yeah, for the entire 10 years, I experienced low grade culture shock. And then when I came back to America, I experienced culture shock all over again back in my country, which they call re-entry culture shock, reverse culture shock, I guess. This is, y'all Americans are this loud? All y'all talk this loud always? Like everywhere? God, why don't y'all shut up? Shh. I had a cry. When I landed back here in America after 10 years in Japan at Tom Bradley at LAX, the very first thing that I noticed when I disembarked from the airplane and walked into the terminal and what have you was how loud everyone and everything was. Part of that is because I had turned down the amplifier, or maybe turned up the amplifier of my brain in order to sort of soak up as much information as I could in Japan, since they are so silent, since I couldn't really speak the language as well as I'd like to, since a lot of Japanese communication is based on reading the air and understanding gestures and sounds and facial tics and things that I had to learn while I was there. So my communicative senses, including my hearing, were turned way up. So in Japan, my antenna was really boom, boom, crazy. When I got back here, it was still crazy. And when I was walking through that terminal, everything sounded crazy loud. I couldn't believe it. It was like I could hear every single voice, in English anyway, that was speaking. I could hear everyone's conversation way too clear. It was as if they were yelling in my ears. And that lasted a year, or maybe not a year, 6 months. That lasted a long time for me to relearn how to use my hearing and my listening here in America, because Americans speak loud, speak a lot. Everyone in America is expressing themselves to their fullest ability every moment of the day, because that's what we're supposed to do as Americans. We're supposed to express everything at the top of our lungs all the time. So we here in America are competing with each other constantly about who can talk the loudest, say the most stuff, express themselves the best, most specific way. And Japanese don't do that. And I was not used to that when I came back here. Everything was too loud. Everybody was talking too loud. Everybody was talking too much and wanted me to talk way too much. A lot of talking going on here in America. But I'm going to end the video. I appreciate you guys watching. Once again, my name is Trevor David Houchen. I am the author of this book. It is called The Eternal Outsider, 10 Years Black in Japan, a Jaded Memoir by me, Trevor David Houchen. That's my poster right there. You can get the book on Amazon. I would love if you could check out my website, A Kid From Brooklyn. No, it's not A Kid From Brooklyn. It's akidfromb.com. I thought A Kid From Brooklyn was too long. So I didn't want it to be, that long. So akidfromb.com. I got some music coming out too, you guys. I'm working on another book right now. And check me out on, like I said, you can check me out on The Underground Railroad on Amazon. Premieres May 14th. What's that, like 5 or 6 weeks away? It's going to be a wonderful show. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Peace, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Peace.